Welcome to our cafe. Big cook, little cook.
Hello, everybody. How are you? Welcome to the show. Hopefully, is it too early to have a sandwich? Um, you might have seen that advert on LinkedIn. So, welcome. Please do say hello in the comments. Let's get to know each other and build our connection. I hope you've all had, for those of you watching in the UK, I hope you've had a lovely bank holiday. And then this week, of course, is going to be the week where we spend all week wondering what day it is. So, are you there? Is anybody out there? Morning, all. Never too early for food, says George. Now, George is available. Contact center leadership. Please do get in touch with George. Now, before you all, hello, Mark, and Mark is available as a change manager, continuous improvement in the contact center world, something that's really important. So please do all, let's get in touch with him. Jodine, hello, how are you? Good to see you. Good to hear from you. I mean, there he is. Jordan Powell, good morning, Mr. T. Hope everyone had a great bank holiday. Good morning. Now, come on. I'm going to guess this is either Alistair or no, not Spencer, maybe. Is it? Hey, Barry, how are you doing? Morning, all. Hope you had a great UK bank holiday. Look at Barry looking so trim there. Farhad from South Africa. Hello, my friend. How are you? The lovely Eva is here. Eva. Now, Eva is also available. I very rarely worked with someone as amazing as Eva. So, whatever it is you're doing, projects, contact center work, quality, training, Eva is definitely worth hooking up with. And again, another legend. Here she is, the ray of sunshine that is Beverly Hughes, who is a massive part of the team leader community. I was going to say this, yeah. Dennis is here. Hello, sir. How are you? Dennis of the amazing moustache and much, much more. Um, is anyone else having these issues? There appear to be some issues with joining and staying in the session, Martin. At least my end. Hopefully, it won't kick me out anymore. I hope this isn't the same for everybody else. Jules is here. Good morning, CX World. And someone else who is, I can't see it. One of your settings must need to be changed. If you could let me know who it is, that would be great. Off to Spain for a week, so can't complain. Lucky you. Ah, Simit is here. Brilliant. Excellent. Now, Joe's here. Good morning, mate. Hopefully catching up with you soon face to face. Joe from Sabio, who are one of my main partners, of course, who allow me to do this. And Joe and me will talk about all things football for a good hour before we get on to any work. There. Yes, Bev is the queen of vitamin D. For some people, that might need explaining. Having some technical issues this morning. Hopefully, I will stay connected. Chris, just dropping in to say hi. I have a meeting to attend, so have a good show. Good. Well, Chris, is these technical issues yours? Having some technical issues? Ah, well, I do hope you stay with me, guys. It kicked me out. Just refreshed it. Greetings from a very disrupted Gatwick Airport. Wow. You're very brave, Simmer. Thank you for tuning in. Ah, lovely Julie's here. We won't talk about yesterday's result, though, Julie. Don't worry. How would your friends describe you? Was what I was going to ask. We get to know each other, don't we, through this show and networking and working with each other. But I would love to know, how would your friends describe you? What are the kind of things that they would say about you? Um, yeah, there is a full explanation within the community as to why we consider Bev Hughes a ray of sunshine. Nigel, hello. We exchanged messages, but we Now, hopefully, I'm back. I'm getting some technical issues here. Good morning, all. We have a first day back at school. So back to a bit of normality for me. I think we have another week of it here, Kerry, but some lovely posts of your holiday, and definitely check out Kerry if you're not already connected. Come on, people. How would your friends describe you? That's what we want to know. I think mine would say short, fat, and annoying. Uh, no, let's not mention the result. Julie, come on, kick us off. Well, you've described me this morning on the team leader community already. Yes, I've already been on the team leader community. Eva's in there, and I said she's a healthy perfectionist. Mark would say, my friends would say this about me: loud, eccentric chap. Oh, I love it, Mark. I feel like I know you better already. This is why this is good. I would probably class myself the same. Now, Julie's friends would describe her as having no filter. That's a good thing. Oh, this is a good one. Bev's friends would describe her as sweary. I count myself in that group, and I would concur with that, Bev. Um, Leicestershire schools have odd holidays. They do. I'm assuming that means that you finish a week earlier. Kerry, come on, how would your friends describe you? What's everybody saying? There's been some good ones so far. Mark, I think you've got my favourite, loud, eccentric chap. How would your friends describe you? Joe Dean says, direct, caring, and don't take any, you know what, is how they would describe me, I think. I love it. I keep losing you. Sorry, George. I'm not sure what's going on here. Jules's friends would say talk. There's a theme here. Too honest, very loud. Lovely Barry the pirate. Normally start with all right, Welshie. Quiet and shy, open and honest. Quiet and shy, really? Is that true? I've seen some pictures of you on your rugby tour. Um, Usually with profanity. Still love me though. Excellent. Isn't that the way? That's what makes a good for, isn't it? Simmer says, my friends would say I'm funny, crazy, and sure, I'm not sure if they laugh at me or with me. Farhad's friends would describe him as demanding. Now, Simmer, what was that? And loyal. Well, no, you're in Gatwood. No apology needed. Crazy, funny, and loyal. No, not really. Yeah, it's true. You're not quiet and shy, are you, Barry? We all know this. I'm hoping, if you haven't already, are you looking through the comments and seeing there might be some people there that you're not already connected with? This is a great opportunity to build your network with interesting people. And it seems from the description, no one's backward in coming forward. Oh, Peter's here. Peter the unicorn. Now, Pete, I'm interested in this one because I would consider you a friend. But how would your other friends describe you? This should be good. My friends would say always easy to talk to. I keep getting that. However, it means phone calls at all hours. You're their kind of go-to person, George. What a nice trait to have. That's very nice. Already got more of a picture of you now already, but I'm hoping that Pete comes up with. Here we go. Ginger beardy Viking. Which is exactly how I would describe you, Pete. Now, the question for today, please do keep these coming. If you remember something as we're into the show, please do just go, oh yeah, they say this about me, and type it in. So the question for today, we've had a bit of time now since the pandemic. It feels like even some of our vernacular and vocabulary is changing around how we consider people working from home, hybrid, remote. I think we're going through some changes, aren't we? what I would love to know is from your opinion, right? Is it better for contact center employees to be in the office or working from home? And what I'm thinking about here are the operations teams, the customer facing teams, and their support functions. So, very much at the cutting edge of dealing with customers, dealing with clients, providing services and products. For the contact center employees, where do you think it's better for them to be? And if you could maybe say why, that would be great. Good morning, Toby. Toby's friends would say he's described as confident and chatty. I love it. Danny's here. Good. I wondered where you were, Danny. It depends who you ask. Just give us a flavour of what people say. So, Eva says, in answer to this question, striking the right balance for me is the key, like everything, really. Yes, very true. Just referring to our conversation this morning in the team leader community. For those of you that you're all in our industry, you've all probably got centres now. Taken out of context is a good one, Nigel. Balding. Well, again, that would be one my friends would throw at me, not balding, bald. What do we think about this, though? Is it better for contact centre employees to be back in the contact centre or working from home? Now, I've left it quite open in that I'm not saying, is it better for the employees? Is it better for customers? Is it better for our industry? All things considered, where do you think things are better off? Is it better off for our contact center colleagues that are customer facing to be in amongst it in the contact center with each other, or working from home, or somewhere in between? Where are your opinions on this? Oh, okay, Jodine's got a good one here. Jodine says, I think flexibility is good because you can use it to increase inclusion and diversity. Very good point. But I also think face to face is so desperately needed to build relationships too. I feel like people are missing out on the human face to face interaction, and it's important for certain interpersonal skills, in my opinion. Jodine, you've summarized that really, really well. I think a lot of people will agree with you on that one. Simmer says, really depends on the individual and their circumstances. And note, an individual consideration now is something that is far more prevalent, right, in a good way, isn't it, Simmer? As a result of the pandemic, we had to consider people's home circumstances far more than we ever did. Jules, the DJ from Ascensos, says there are two sides to this. Working from home has obvious advantages, as does the community of being together. Very, very true. Very true, Jules. Now, and I've seen what a great spirit there is in the Ascensos office, certainly in your Motherwell office, and I'm sure in the others. If we keep the contact center approaches from the last 10 years and offer working from home versus office, says Danny, it will usually be the office. Working from home can be more suitable and beneficial, but we need to evolve the contact center's approach and views on it. Very true. Now, Bev says, in the office, no getting away from the support you get on the ground. Flexing should be a backstop, but not necessarily the default. So Bev is very firmly saying, stay in the contact center because you can't get away from the fact that you get better support when you're in the same building. And that flexing, I'm assuming that means flexing to work from home, should be a backstop, but not necessarily the default. Hey, first time to join the show. Thank you very much. Please just maybe drop a comment in so I can see what your name is. I'll see afterwards, but it would be nice to say hello. Thank you very much. I think a hybrid scenario is better, as you can't beat the face-to-face human interaction. However, to work from home has got its benefits. Also, to coach agents on the floor, not the virtual floor, can be very beneficial for the agents and for the manager and coach. So true. I couldn't agree more. I think for the team leaders that have operated purely in a remote environment, they've developed a skill set that I think I would have struggled with, which was coaching virtually only, even with cameras on. I think it's a real challenge. And then, of course, must make coaching face to face far more easier. But is it as effective to coach virtually? So, thanks for joining the show for the first time, and what a lovely first comment as well. Brilliant. Danny says that's a challenge. We've treated it as a transactional decision rather than the complex choice that requires far more from the employer's side. And I think you make a really good point, Danny, that the employer takes the lion's share of the responsibility here, and it is a complex choice. Barry says, I love that we've started with a balance of both and that we're thinking about our people first. That's brilliant. It's all about life-work balance, and each of us will be different. And I know the approach you guys have there at Moneycore, Barry, you know, led by you and Rami and people like that. I know that you are very much a people-first organization. So you're dead right. This is a real positive, isn't it? It's striking the balance per campaign. Face-to-face is impossible to replace, says Jules, but more personal time has obvious work-life balance. Very true. Eva agrees with Bev. Love this approach. Flexibility, but not the default. Sanse have been 100% remote for years. Contact centers can work fully remote, but they need to adapt their processes to suit that audience. Yeah, exactly. I've had 4 people on the podcast from Sanse. Great organization. Have always been at the cutting edge of doing things from a remote point of view. Oh, hi, Luca. Great. No, I can't. Danny Wareham can help you out. He's my go-to person when this happens. But Luca, great to put a name to your comment. Simmer says, agreed that flexibility is key. If we're talking sales campaigns, then nothing beats working in the contact center and feeding off the buzzy atmosphere. Very true. From experience, I can get answers and issues addressed much faster when I'm in the office. No need to schedule in meetings or wait on people to answer emails. Such a good point. I think how many in the moment interactions have been lost or not even, squashed because you think, oh, the chances of me getting my support, like my line manager right now when I need them, could be minimal, so I'm not going to bother. And those mini interactions, those in the moment interactions, I think are where you can demonstrate great leadership and care. So we're kind of missing them, aren't we? Craig's here. Hello, mate, from sunny Bristol. Love him. I haven't spoken to you for ages, and I'm sure there's a game of table tennis or something on the table, isn't there? Now, Craig makes a really good point. Agents often live with parents or shared accommodation, so the workspace is the end of a bed or small kitchen table. We need to balance the commuting cost for our people with the effective workspace to do good work. It's a really good point, isn't it? I recognise I'm very lucky to be in my children's TV broom cupboard here. Not everyone else has a dedicated working space, do they? And that obviously has an impact on the quality of their work and, more importantly, their kind of mental well-being. Now, Kerry says the problem is that during 2020, many contact centers had no choice but to almost drag and drop models to work from home. Very true. Investment is needed in tech and L&D. New programs needed quite often. Very true. And to be honest, it's a kind of one of the reasons, Kerry, why I set up the team leader community for these kind of somewhere that you can go for L&D all of the time, regardless of where you are. If we do go 100% remote, we need to make sure we give the time and space for our people while they are at home. That's very true. Barry, thank you for that. George says, spent 9 years remote working, works well for a lot of people, although not everyone. As long as there are very good support tools in place for leaders to use. Yeah, really interesting. Thanks, George. Jordan says, I don't think it's one size fits all question. Personally, I feel more engaged in the office as I'm competitive. Some are far more valuable working from home due to being happier. It's very true. Danny, tongue in cheek. Isn't it odd that those that want employees back in the office have zero issue with using offshore outsourced models where they have little real-time visibility? This was one of the things that came up quite a lot when the pandemic first hit. I think it was a mindset thing. You said, "Oh, how am I going to manage my teams when I can't see them?" And for some, I'd say you can't see your teams right now. They're in another building, and so yeah, really, really interesting point, Danny. Luca, by the way, I'm on the market looking for a team leader or senior team leader role. Thank you. Contact me afterwards. I'm happy to add you to the post I do on a Monday, highlighting those professionals looking for new roles in our industry. And please do connect with everyone here, Luca. I'm sure there's some helpful connections right now. So Luca's looking for team leader or senior team leader positions. Thank you, Danny. I should read that. Here we go. So Eva says, I think we also need to take into consideration people's individual personality. I would go as far as saying psychological wiring. Somebody recently told me that as they are neurodiverse, they've always been fearful working with many others around them, as this had negatively affected their self-confidence and overall performance. On the other hand, working from home has been a great enabler. However, this is all individual. So back to Bev's point, Bev, it seems like everyone likes a flexible approach rather than the default. Toby says, I'm a very social person. I've always preferred working in the office. I would agree, actually, Toby. I think if you gave me a choice, I would be around people working. Dave, hello, sir. Dave, how are you doing? Dave, we're amongst award winners here, global award winners, no less. Now, Dave is also available, so please do connect and check out his profile. He's got a long history of excellence. So, you, my dear, globally remote. They have a strict policy around prescriptive workspace. That said, they're more aligned to the gig economy, which is a very interesting point, Dave. And Eva says Danny's point is very interesting as well. Barry says, I'd like to have balanced myself. Working from home too much and I send myself mad. Well, this is where I'm at, Barry. Better if I get the time with people face to face and balance of working from home when it works for me. Think we should offer this to our people too. Is that what you guys do? You do that already, Barry? I can't remember. Kerry agrees with Eva. So true. Working from home has been a huge enabler for those with limited mobility. Now, I mentioned earlier, Kerry, the podcast with Sonsei. In fact, I've done 5, I think, with them because we did one in the first year of the podcast, and which was 2019. So just before, is that before the pandemic hit? Yeah, I think so. And even then, they were talking about how both geographically, demographically, they were able to employ people that had been excluded for various reasons, but had been excluded from our world. So, a really, really interesting point that it is far more inclusive. And I think Jodine, you said that as well, didn't you? Hey Ben, how you doing now? Ben is a guest on the podcast, and a couple of weeks ago, I think that was published. So Ben from Max Contact, lots to go at here, and there is no right and wrong. Very, very true. Can you see me now, Martin? I can't, no, but there have been some technical problems this morning. Hello, Harvey. How you doing? Harvey also supports job seekers. So for those of you that are looking, if you're not already connected with Harvey, please do connect with him. Hello, everyone. I think working from home takes a lot of discipline. It can also be isolating, so it needs support, not just for day-to-day issues, but to ensure positive mental health. Very true, Harvey. Very, very true. Danny, the organisations that get this right, i.e. providing comparable support environment and culture in remote teams, will own the next 10 years of contact centers. So if what an incentive that is in terms of being the best over the next 10 years, Danny, because I would agree with you, the progressive companies there that are doing this are doing really well. Martin, back to the question somebody asked, how can I manage my team if I don't see them? I believe that through trust, you can achieve far more than through seeing your team. I agree, completely agree. It's madness. We have hybrid options, 3 in the office and 2 work from home, but we allow people to manage it how it works for them. So we have some people that want to be in the office more and don't work from home at all. Love it. That's great. I thought that's what you did, Barry, actually. Danny says there's a Deloitte study that found that inefficient presenteeism, i.e. forcing employees back to the office just because, costs more than if those people were simply absent. Very true. And if you want to kind of tap into the zeitgeist, I guess there's TikTok's very good from that. And there's a lot of videos about come back to the office for the office culture. And they're pretty barren, sparse places where not much is happening. Joe, hi Joe. Interesting people would now rather work in the office. 84% of our candidates would rather work more than 3 days a week. Is that 3 days a week back in the contact center? Yeah, Joe, that's fascinating. Pete says, if we're authentic about our drive to professionalize and empower operations, we need to build businesses that focus on flexibility and support for work from anywhere. So true, Peter. So true. I've seen tech organizations get this right. Let me rephrase that, says Jodine. I've seen one tech organization get this right, which could easily be extended to the contact center industry, but it needs buy-in and investment to get this right, for employees to be well supported, empowered to work effectively from home. It also takes a lot of engagement from all key stakeholders, but it can work and the balance can be struck. So true. Trust must be earned on both sides when working from home. I'm assuming that's you, Luca. Another good point. Simmer says, an important point to consider as an outsourcer. Sometimes it's dependent on the client's preference. So true, Simmer. You are beholden to them, aren't you? If they want teams based in the office, that's what we've got to do. Also depends on the nature of the work. FCA regulated, really, really good consideration, Simmer. I've been there myself, so I know that the client can make some kind of insistence sometimes that is difficult to accommodate. Lots to go out here. There's no right or wrong. Remote is hard to get. And what works for one doesn't work for another, says Ben. There are a lot of considerations. And when you usually see answers, they are sweeping statements from people. But when I was coming through in my career, work was a big social aspect of my life. So true. And likewise, I spent more time with my work colleagues and my friends. We've seen people with social issues get worse post-pandemic. We're now seeing people come in the office 5 days a week. Ben, very true about the kind of the social aspect. I think balance works well, says Harvey. When I have an office day, I look forward to seeing everyone. True. And normally have a long list of projects that need face-to-face approach. I was previously kind of remote, home, in the office, in London, and Eva will attest to this because Eva was one of my colleagues. When I came in our centre, I used to get told I was too disruptive because I was just excited to see people. And I stopped people from doing normal work because we were chatting too much. I used this example previously, says Danny. COVID has given us an opportunity. Previously, we have data to say how a specific individual works in the office. We now have a second data set that shows how that same specific individual works at home. Rather than a blanket decision for location, we could compare data sets and treat it more scientifically. There you go. What a great place to stop this being a great debate. We're now at everyone's favorite part, I think. So we're going to do, if you remember, Contact Babel's Decision Maker Guide. We are going through it, and we're at some great sections. Let me just catch up on these, though. I don't want to leave you out. Dave, my previous employer tried to stipulate a minimum return in the US. It was completely rejected in the UK due to contractual issues. However, when I would go into the office, there would be maybe a handful of people. It was like a library. I'd find myself going into side rooms to make calls. That's a really good point, Dave. And that's kind of the thing that's showing up on TikTok a lot. Uh, we've QA'd and coached remotely for years on behalf of other companies. And the last few years, our training offer has been remote first, built with intent instead of merely modified. The reality is, companies that do things well do it regardless of the locations of their contact centers and employees. Interesting. Hi, Rick. Hello. As a recruiter in this sector, I've noticed although remote seems to provide businesses with more applicants, the excuses to get out of doing the work is a burden. I feel getting back in the office is the way forward. Rick is taking the stand there, which I love. On the flip side, had working from home been this prevalent prior to the pandemic, I could have returned to my career much sooner after having kids than I did. What a great point, Simmer. And you think about that across the whole industry. Yeah, that's really interesting. I hadn't considered that. Yeah, sitting at the far end of the office, nowhere near the entrance, I instantly heard when Martin arrived. Oh dear. Believe it or not, I once had HR talk to me about maybe lowering my volume when I came in and hugging less. Although I would like to say, John, who was the recipient of the hug, had no complaints. Having worked from home for nearly 9 years at Sunset, an outsourcer with the right tools and right training for leaders, it does work very well. However, I agree it's down to the individual. It doesn't work for everyone. Very true. Now, let's get on to the Contact Babel, the Decision Makers Guide. We are at, I'll tell you where we're at on page numbers. I know some of you are interested in this. We are on page number 437, and we are talking onboarding. So, the decision makers that completed the survey, and as I repeat again for those that are joining for the first time, this is the largest survey of contact center decision makers in our industry. These are the provisions that they have for bringing new agents into the contact center. So, do these apply to you? You'll see by far the most prevalent is buddying, mentoring program. Now, there's nothing in this about the extent to which it is mentoring. I imagine buddying is today you're going to be sat with Martin for the next 2 weeks. That's as far as it goes. It's by far the most prevalent. Then we have meet executives in the senior management team. Joy. I know as a new starter, when I was an agent or a team leader, that's the thing I wanted to do the most. So transition training and graduation after basic call handling. Let's call that academy, grad bays, call them what you will, but that's got to be that, right? Then personalized agent development plans, employee surveys, social events and team building exercises, single online location for all paperwork and policies, a pre-start familiarization visit is the least prevalent, and then 2% said they do none of those. God only knows what they do then. What do you do for new hires? He's ready, look, and he's ready in his soapbox. Yes, Eva is agreeing with Pader here. Now, what do we think, though, of these provisions here? What's missing? What do you think of the stats here? I think buddying is, whilst I imagine it's helpful for me, this, if that's all you've got, there's some huge challenges there and variables. Danny, I agree with you here. Look, Danny says the pre-start option is such an underrated option. Do it as part of the interview day, whether they're successful or not. It sets expectations for the successful candidates and helps with EVP for those that didn't become employees. So true. I was kind of amazed by this one, if I'm honest. In that, some of these, there's little thought has gone into this. You would say here, transition training and graduation after basic call handling and academy. Personalized agent development plans. These two are good. These two are lazy. Remember last week we discussed the disjoint between job and job expectation. Interest in the pre-start familiarization is so low, or maybe not a surprise. That is true, Bev, isn't it? If for those of you that didn't watch the show last week, we said, and also Suzanne Dawson-Hull mentioned it on her podcast around the job advert, not at SSCL, by the way, but the job advert she applied for made no mention of the fact you'd be working in a contact center. It just said customer services. And something like this is fascinating, isn't it? Damn it, Danny. So he is very fast. We're very lucky. Now, Julie, I knew you'd have something on this. A structured pre-boarding and candidate experience program that prepares them for day one. You've got it. And Julie at Greenbean, one of my partners, and I love working with them, are doing some great things on trying to address this and bring this bang up to date. Joe says, pre-induction contact is so true. Manage the delivery to the start date reduces the dropout. Regular check-ins. So looking forward to you coming on board. I'm your new team manager, by the way. Brilliant. Exactly that. Would be interesting to see if personalized agent development plans are development or just getting new starters up to the minimum operational standard against a set of predetermined KPIs. Danny, so yeah, I agree with you. I imagine these personalized agent development plans are not that personalized. There's some other slides coming up later that will be really interesting to come back to this and see. Barry says, we do side-by-side call listening and a bit of time with the team on the day of the interview. Brilliant. Brilliant, Barry. That's money call. And Barry, such a great way for them to see who we are as much as us finding out about them. Also use a mix of all of those. Again, think working with a new person is also key. How do they like to learn? Are they a doer, reader, visual? Try to make it work for all. And that's, you would then get a true personalized development plan. Kerry says, so much is missed on the pre-start. Just doing an article on this for a CX platform. I'm looking for any great, awful onboarding stories from an employee experience perspective. So please feel free to share. We can crowdsource this for you, Kerry. And I wonder if this will feature in your article. So the extent to which you have these in place, what impact does that have on your retention? Well, that question was asked, and you can see if you use less than 3 of those aforementioned provisions, your 3-month attrition is pretty horrible. If you use more than 5, so if you have more than 5 of these as part of your new agents onboarding, you can see a huge impact positively on your 3-month attrition rate. No surprise, I'm sure all of you are agreeing, but isn't it good to see it actually in some stats? So the 3-month attrition rate for companies that have 5 or more of these is significantly better than those that only have less than 3. Completely unshocked face emoji. And Danny and Kerry are going to catch up and crowdsource some interesting onboarding stats. But yes, completely unshocked face emoji. It's good to see it in order, though, isn't it? And I'm not being honest, I think we could come up with some better stuff than this. You already have. So imagine the impact that will have. So the next one, a really, really interesting one, is And bearing in mind, this is now probably referring to last year. So investing in and setting expectations for your people early doors makes them feel more part of your organization. Who knew? Now you'll see something later on that for us, I think some of this stuff seems so obvious, doesn't it? But too often, some of the senior leaders think that technology is the only answer possible, when in fact this is just basics, absolute basics. Remember what it's like to be brand new. How could that be a wonderful experience? Some a pack that's sent out to you that, like you say, pre-start familiarization visits don't necessarily need to be in person. I know of companies, and I've done it previously, where we videoed each other, just saying hello, hi Martin, really looking forward to you joining. I'm going to be your team leader. I'll get you to meet the rest of the team. By the way, I support Tottenham. Hope you're not an Arsenal fan. All of that kind of stuff. It is obvious, but you can't read the label when you're in the bottle. Now, Danny ever used that. She loved that one the other day. What a great quote. So this one's really interesting. The extent to which our agents, how is their morale? I'll read you what it says. Agents with low morale engage with customers less, provide lower quality work, take more unauthorized absence, and end up leaving the company. Improving morale is good for business and also good for other agents in the entire working environment. No one wants to go to work in a miserable place. Looking at the chart above, it seems that contact center morale is generally seen to be quite positive, with 79% of respondents stating that their contact center enjoys good or excellent morale. Although this is less the case for smaller operations, where 27% of respondents report morale as being only fair. Very few survey respondents reported poor morale this year. What do you think about that? Is this does this surprise you as well, or do you think, well, actually, people are going to say there's good morale? But it ties in, doesn't it, with our earlier question to kick us off about where people are working from. It'd be interesting to see the difference there. And I wonder why, if anyone's got any answers, I'd appreciate it. Why is it that smaller contact centers, and I can't remember the distinction they make, I think it's something like less than 50 or less seats. But why is it that smaller contact centers seem to have a higher percentage of people where their morale is average or poor? What do we think? A couple of thoughts. Are we really measuring morale with the question? I'm assuming, Danny, like you, it doesn't actually say what the methodology is. If it was just a generic, what is the morale of your team? It leaves a lot unanswered, doesn't it? But I'm assuming it means that they trust in that somehow they've got employee satisfaction measures in place. I worked in a contact center and got told blatantly I was just a number. Wow. What a poor contact center and poor experience, Rick. Hopefully those are in the minority, right? Those kind of contact centers are absolutely in the minority. And the circuit breaker that we had for the pandemic, as I said earlier, I think it made us consider people as individuals far more than numbers, or far more than we ever had. But unfortunately, you had that experience. Hopefully, the rest of your experiences have redressed that somewhat. Danny, number 2, for the sizes, I would suggest that small centres result in the employee having more varied responsibility, i.e., a HR person might do all of HR. In a large company, you might have a HR team with differing roles. Very true. Eva, like you, surprising that the lower score was in the small contact centres. I would expect that small contact centres create a more personalised approach where people feel more comfortable they can be themselves rather than a number, to Rick's point there. And I know, I don't think she's with us today, but Marianne Marianne from the Verity Centre, Jordan from the Fab Group, smaller contact centres. You get to know people. You can really feel part of a team. So yeah, I was surprised by that response as well. Large contact centres actually become groups of small contact centres. True. We naturally form teams, tribes, social groups, which are already closer and more connected. The downside is that we can then become siloed and tribal, wary of other tribes in the same organization. Them and us. Yes, Danny, wow. Wow in a poor way, in a negative way. The compensation packages in smaller centres tend to be smaller. Maybe that's a factor. Really good point, Kerry. Strange one for me. We should see, hear, and feel our morale. And it's something that we always need to be working on. Very true. Smaller comp, but more work pressure. Yes, you two are vibing very well together. So yeah, fascinating stuff. We've gone over on time. I'm going to save some of these other slides to next week. They're very interesting as we continue this discussion. I want to say thank you very, very much. Again, you've joined from airports. We've had technical problems, but I feel like we've got to know each other a bit better, and we've chatted about some really important points in our industry. Let me just catch up quickly, so I don't want to leave you out. Is it down to margins and profitability? Perhaps for smaller groups of people, it may be easier to be impacted by the low morale of others around you. Yes, very true, Luca. In my previous company, which was a smaller centre, the morale was lower, which bucked my idea of what it would be. Interesting. So that would point this as being spot on then. Sorry. LinkedIn user, is that Tracy? You can see it then, Danny. Hi, Tracy. Sorry. One absence in a team of 10 is more impactful than 3 in a team of 30. Thanks all, been a great session. Thanks, Barry, and loving the new picture, by the way. Look how fit Barry's looking. It did go quickly, Eva. Thank you. Thanks, Eva. Thanks, everybody. Have a lovely week. Remember, today is Tuesday. Don't let the bank holiday fool you. And take care of yourselves. Make sure you connect with each other. And for those looking for work, I hope you have a really, really positive week full of opportunities. So thank you very much.